Thank you for joining the Broadway Drumming 101 podcast with your host, Clayton Craddock.
Welcome to Broadway Drumming 101. My name is Clayton Craddock, and my guest today is the legendary Buddy Williams. Thank you for taking time out to talk to me about yourself and really our connection to what we do as musicians on Broadway. I mean, we've known each other
Not long enough, brother. Not long enough. I needed you years ago. But when God blessed me with you in my presence to guide me through this path that we have to run down those streets and get in the pit in time before the door closed and make it sound like it's supposed to sound.
Yes.
And not get yelled at by the conductor. I'm going to be quiet after that.
So I got to tell you, you probably don't remember, but when you were working at Showtime at the Apollo with Debbie McDuffie, my cousin worked with Debbie, and he brought me down, and you told me about this new technology. And we were offline before. You were telling me about, how technology somewhat confounds you today, but back then you had this new. It wasn't a smartphone, because we didn't have smartphones back in the mid '90s. It was
the Zaurus. Or something like that.
Yeah, and you typed on. You're like, man, you got to get one of these for your schedule. I'm like, really? What's that?
Look, and now we're all walking around with them, guiding us like.
Yeah, you were way ahead, man. You should have just been like investing in that company. You could have been like a multi-billionaire.
Yeah, you're right, and here we are.
So yeah, it was great to actually to meet you back then, and I'm glad we connected through The Color Purple is where I actually finally started working with you.
Thank you.
Look, for people that don't know who Buddy Williams is, I want you just to look him up, because there's just so many names that I could just rattle off, and so many other people have rattled them off already, but I'm not even going to do that right now, because we're going to focus right now on the connection that we have, like I said before, which is Broadway. Your first Broadway show, was that The Color Purple, or was there something else before that?
The first official show that Broadway will recognize as me, Buddy Williams, is our participation with The Color Purple, because I started from the beginning. I was specially requested via the great Linda Twine. I knew the three authors, Brenda Russell, of course, rest in peace, Allie Willis, dear Allie Willis, who I worked with Bette Midler 40 years ago. You got to have friends, that song. I was playing with Bette, and Allie was writing and stuff. So we were on a team together. So it's Brenda Russell, Allie Willis, and then Stephen Bray. He's a great drummer, Madonna, and they were the composers. So Linda Twine wanted me to come. When they say to you, I want you to do what you do, and you go, really? Okay. No. You do what you do. Whatever you hear right here, you do. Yeah, right. You do what you do. And I'll have somebody write it down. And I went, yes, man. And she started notating and stuff. I was blown away by that, because I had learned from y'all meaning the brothers that are doing it every day. Here's the libretto. Don't move, don't deviate. And if you do, heads will roll, that kind of thing. I mean, silly, but, it was to that degree. But the first official Broadway show that Broadway will say, now I've tried to sub on other shows, Sweet Brian Break, Omnipotent Potentate with Broadway. I tried to do Smokey Joe's. They wanted me to try to play at the Wiz. I was always on the road. But when I came back to town, I would learn a book. I tried to learn several, I won't name them, but, them Disney joints, The Mouse and, but I never got, you learn it and then you never get the call. But I was honored to do from, like you do, from scratch, the work. I didn't do the workshop in Georgia for The Color Purple, but I heard the tapes and the stuff with Lettucey doing that, and what's our sister, Adrienne Lennox. Woo! So I thought them sisters was going to be in what it was going to be, but when I got to the official Here's the First Day, it was the cast that we now went and won the Tony, LaChance, woo, and all those folks. So yeah, it was great to do that. Angela Robinson, I mean, I can name them all. And then later on, they had Fantasia. She put her stamp on it, and I was there for all of that. So I had subbed at Hair, but that wasn't my official show, but I subbed at Hair, and the same thing, the composer wanted me to do it, and he liked that I was there and played the same tempo that he wanted it to be, because the drummer at the time, ooh, Clayton, I'm holding my tongue, I don't want to get in trouble. You want people to look up stuff, you look up the stuff. The drummer at the time, he came in and he played at the tempo he wanted to play at. And he didn't toe the line like he's supposed to with the conductor lady. But that was a great experience because I love that music, but to play you have to play it right every night. And that was that's what I was striving for. Then the second one, of course, is our Motown experience.
Yeah, before we go there, let's talk about you were born and raised in New York City?
Brooklyn, New York, Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn.
All
Kings
right.
County Hospital.
And you went to Manhattan School of Music?
I went to the High School of Music and Art, and I went to Manhattan School of Music. I was a terrible student because I was always playing in the clubs and playing with other people and going on the road. I was incorrigible, if that's the word, without cussing on air, but you know what I mean? Listen, my parents didn't have it like that. I didn't really have a big scholarship, so I paid myself through school, but I had great teachers and great blessings of people that mentored and helped me. I gotta say, Warren Smith, the great percussion drum teacher, he led by example by me seeing the many different instruments that we play in our section, and tried to get my reading together, and they got me through. My university teachers was Jim Price, who was a match grip guy, and he calmed the waters for me because most of these guys were like, you're unorthodox and you can't play like that. But he showed me that it was fine. Of course, I came through the ranks of Mr. Paul Price at Manhattan School of Music. He was a very nice gentleman. He was a great concert percussionist. He was kind of scary, but once you got past the rough thing, like your drill sergeant, he loved you. He used to say, you need to leave Mr. Williams alone and learn your lesson, because when he comes back, he is 2 lessons ahead. And my father scared me with it. He said, I don't care if you are paying or who's paying it. I want you to do good. Don't have do. You know how you hear that? Don't have do. And my father was a great musician, man.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, who influenced you to play drums?
Well, let's say it in the short version. My dad was in a group called the Charioteers. They're an old singing group from the 30s and 40s. They were in they were what the blacks singing group for Columbia Records, with the with the red label and the gold microphone. And they had hits like Ride, Red Ride, Open the Door, Richard, So Long. They were in several Broadway productions, but Hell's a Poppin', the First Brothers. He went to Wilberforce University. He spoke 5 languages. He could sing. He was a baritone. He sang, and Mr. Boatner. Bobby McFerrin's father and my father were tight from that era. That's how far back my dad goes. Bing Crosby. They were on television with Arthur Godfrey. They were the First Brothers on TV. I say all that to say, I have that in my house here. You know what I mean? That piano. U.B. Blake is my great uncle, lived down the block. I was around, music and piano and stuff like, the carpenter's kid is a carpenter. The fireman's kid is a fireman, kind of. I was a musician's kid, but my grandmother was a minister at Bridge Street Church across the street here. Playing the piano meant, oh boy, they're going to make me play in church. And, the hip stuff to us wasn't then. You know what I mean? So Joseph Joubert is the pure example of him and Shelton. They can play the church stuff, and Jason Michael Webb too. They can play the church stuff and still play the hip stuff. I didn't have that avenue. It to me, it was like, oh boy, I'm gonna have to play this stuff over and over again. And I had too many great piano players around me. So yeah, I played piano from 3 years old, but not like that. I was encouraged by the drums because I saw that was my voice, my path. I used to see the drum corps come through here, the African drumming, Chick Webb. My dad knew Lionel Hampton. All those guys knew my father and them because those guys were the guys in those days, you know. So Lionel Hampton gave me a pair of sticks, Clayton. Them big old practice sticks, big old suckers look like tree trunks. And I came home playing boom, 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 boom on the door. That was the way I learned the drums and how to apply it. And my Uncle Yubi was very encouraging of leave him alone. That's what he wants to do. He's definitely got the rhythm and the stuff. And then I pursued it more and more and more. And then Chris Brooks, God rest his soul, my cousin Chris, I played his drums one summer. I think I was 8 or 9 in Illinois. That was it. And I've been doing that ever since. You know?
When did you get your first drum set?
First drum set that I owned, I guess, as a teenager, only because my dad really couldn't afford it. But I played other people's drums and practiced on and in school. But I worked, tell you the truth, I worked as a janitor, not janitor, but you know, like you mop the floors on the weekends, and Dad had these buildings, and I would go do that, and he'd save the money. And I went to Sam Ash and bought a Ludwig standard drum set. It was that Strat, blue Strat. I still have the snare drum and 2 of the little tom-tom, and the rest of them, I don't know where that went, you know. That's a lot of years ago. I haven't thought about those drums, but that was the first kit I got. And then from then on, I got drums. Folks gave me drums. The great Roy McCurdy, who played with Cannonball. My uncle is Walter Booker, and Uncle Bookie and Roy McCurdy. Roy McCurdy was getting drums all the time, so he would give me drums. He just give me drums, you know. So I would take care of them, but they were little jazz kit, and they would fit in my Volkswagen, so I could go play my gigs at like the Cellar or McKell's or Russ Brown. That's all in that West 90s area, and that's how I paid my rent while I was going to Manhattan School of Music and Art and all of that stuff, because I was trying to hold on and be somebody's parent and responsible human being.
Were there drummers that you were looking up to at the time where you're like, you know what, I want to be as good as this guy or this woman?
All the great gods of the drums then, yeah, Max Roach, Billy Collins, but Roy McCurdy, Ayeto Moreira. Roy McCurdy, Ayeto Moreira. Those 2 guys, if you don't know, go do your homework, kids, because those are some bad dudes. And that opened my head up time-wise, how to approach a piece, stay in your lane, open up, you know, how to approach dynamics. But my guy that I wanted to be like, since this is the Broadway platform, is the great Grady Tate. Ain't nobody better than that dude, brother. Grady Tate. And he made it funny. He'd come in and have you giggling and laughing, and he'd swing you out the door and knock it out. And before you know it, he's out the door and off to the next one. That guy, man, he played on a lot of shows and a lot of situations, and he was clean. His approach, his everything was very, symmetric, if I may use that term.
I'm looking up Roy McCurdy right now. He's still alive.
Oh, baby.
He's 85. Yeah. Lives in Rochester. He lives in, born in Rochester.
Born in Rochester. He just got a big award. He lives in Pasadena, Altadena, California. I talk to him once a month.
Count Basie, Wes Montgomery, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah. Yeah, I need to do my homework.
He worked with Nancy Wilson until she died.
Wow.
Him and her worked it. After Cannon died, she scooped them up. We were all under the same umbrella when we were growing up, or working together with John Levy And John Levy was the manager for Nancy Wilson, Cannonball Adderley, Stanley Turrentine, Freddie Hubbard, Les McCann. Ooh, can't forget Les McCann. And there's another lady I think we all know named Roberta Flack.
Yes, we will get into her in a minute.
I know, but I'm just saying we were all under the same umbrella of John Levy's tutelage in terms of he was the management, because I worked with a young group from Music and Art called Natural Essence, and Rashid Ali created this group and got all of us together. And then when our piano player went to the Army or whatever, he asked Nat Adderley Jr., because Noel Pointer was in our band, Noel Pointer, and then he got Nat Adderley Jr. to play. And once Nat got in the band, his father heard us, his dad, Papa Nat and Cannon heard us, and they did this. And we were at the Apollo, like you said, you remember you saw me at the Apollo. I had been working at the Apollo in the basement upstairs. You know, that was our after school teething ring, so to speak, you know what I mean? So that's how I got to play with so many musicians at a young age, because the drummer didn't come upstairs and they say, tell the kid to come up, or one of them, Francisco Centeno, the bass player, same thing, to scoop you up upstairs to play the show until they could get somebody else or get, or just keep you there.
You were working at the Apollo and playing several clubs and doing all kinds of gigs. Yeah. Did you ever consider Broadway?
I never thought I'd be on Broadway, bro. My beat myself up thing. I saw Selden Powell, the great reed player, go. He lived in the same building as Uncle Bookie. We would rehearse and record at Uncle Bookie's place on 87th in Amsterdam. And I'd see Selden Powell coming in from the gig, coming in from the show, doing another show, and the many different saxophone cases and woodwind instruments. And I'd go, wow. But never, ever did I think I was going to play a Broadway show. I just never crossed my mind. When You Know Who came and did like this to me, I went, really? She said, no, I got this. I need you. I don't want them other guys. They don't want them other guys. I told them I could get you, and I've been sent over here to get it. In fact, she came to Jezebel's. Remember Miss Alberta's restaurant over there down the street from the theaters? We were playing jazz. Me and Andy, we were playing a trio, and we were literally in the window, and she came and put her hands on her hips. Miss Twine came in. She stood there and looked. And when we stopped playing, she came inside. I said, come in. Went outside. She said, I've been looking for you. I said, what happened? I thought. She said, well, and that was before cell phones. Yeah, there was registry and you had the Sky pager. But she was, like thinking and saying, I need to get a different drummer for Color Purple, because it wasn't a Broadway thing. It was that down home gut bucket or the soul R&B blues. And she knew that I wouldn't think about it. I just play what they want and be quiet. See, because they had the level all and they were all over the pit. You saw that in the Nets. Harpo, especially, he fell down in that bad boy once. So we had to be real quiet, and we got them little the rods and shakers and all little eggs. Thank you for the percussion people that gave us little things to keep it going. But it came out like that. But she wanted that vibe, and she wanted what she wanted. And I'm thankful for it, because here we are, me and you talking about it.
Now, you started out playing with Natural Essence. You went to Music and Art and Manhattan School of Music. And
yes, sir.
You were working at the Apollo. Then you were playing nightclubs, and session work started coming.
Yes, sir.
I'm sure. Now,
yes, sir.
I've always been curious about how that whole system worked, and I've talked to a couple of people like yourself that have done a lot of that work. Tell me like a typical day in that when recordings were happening all the time in New York City. What was a typical day? You tell me more about radio registry. You get a call and you'd have to call back, and tell me how a typical day would work for you.
Okay, if you had a beeper, I'm being stupid, but if you had a beeper, or they caught you at home, or they left you a message on your answer machine with the little tape running around like that, And you do like that. Yeah, that's me. I mean, I
I
got
remember that.
teased by Dave Sanborn and all those guys because we'd be doing a gig somewhere on the earth, and he'd say on the stage, on this off the stage, on the phone, Buddy Williams. But I was running to check the machine to see if I had a call for somebody to for us to work or come do that. And registry was the answering service. Radio registry was the answering service that was like a booking service. The contractor would say, I need 20 musicians. These are the main guys. And then he would have alternate names. If this guy's not ready, not available, get this guy. And if this guy's not available, get this guy. So they would call, and if you didn't answer the phone, they'd go to the next thing. Then when we got the beeper technology to at least beep you because you're not home, because otherwise you had to sit at the, by the phone. Then there's you want to know about that era. That era had a club, restaurant called Jim and Andy's that was right in Times Square area over there by don't say that word, by the famous soup guy. See, I didn't say
I
what
know
I
what
was
you're
going
talking
to
about.
say. Jim and Andy's, and all the guys would go in there and hang out, but there was a registry phone on the wall, 2 or 3 of them, or they would call the bar itself and say, is such and such in there? Tell them I need him. And they'd run to the phone and they'd pick it up, and it would go right to registry, and they'd say, I have a this, I have a 10 to the, or usually it's an afternoon, because those guys would do their morning, whatever it was, 9, 10 o'clock job, and then go there and have lunch and hang and cocktails. But they would go in there and wait, and then the phone would ring. And if they needed a trumpet or the violin guys or whatever, that was what did I do? I usually got called at the last minute. I had certain people, clients, folks that I would do stuff for all the time. But sometimes, who was late, and I'm not saying their names because I'm going to be in trouble, but everybody knows who I'm talking about. And they would triple book or something, and the people would get mad, and then they'd say, call Buddy, and I'd get there real quick, play the thing, and by the time who got there, of course, who had a little attitude about it, but you shouldn't have booked yourself 3 times for the same, time slot. And I'm not, no slander. No slander. I saved you.
I'm not going to mention any names either. I have an
No,
idea who you're talking
everybody,
about.
folks that live with us, they know who I'm talking about. There were
So-
3 notorious ones that would triple book themselves and think everybody would wait, and they got tired of waiting. And then some folks just kept me, they kept calling me back. But every dog has his day, and you have to be ready. I wasn't the greatest, but I did the best I could. And the thing was, I did show up, shut up, and play the music. And that's been the motto most of my life.
You go in, they have the music there, the drums are already set up, and the cymbals are there.
Sir.
Oh, really? So you just go in and play?
Go play. Most of the places had stuff that was palatable. When you got used to going to these places, of course, I started bringing my own cymbals and schlepping my own stuff. And that's why my back says, oh, really? But I used to have that cymbal bag on my arm, and get in a cab or, and get there and get back when, those were the days.
And then go play gigs at night.
Yes, you said it right. Burn the candle on both ends. But I really had no choice, but they were nice gigs. I didn't, some of them clubs were till 3 a.m. I didn't have to do that. They were, I'd finish at 1 and run home and crash out. And then try to go to school. Don't forget, try to go to school the next morning when college. I was playing the clubs and going to Manhattan, or trying to go to Manhattan when I was in town. Oh, yeah, I was terrible, man. I was terrible.
You were doing all these sessions. Did you write down the artists that you were working for and the songs that you were doing, or did you just say, I'm just going to get paid? Did you document this stuff?
Pretty much, yes. Here you go. I played on Valerie Simpson and Nick Ashford. This before it was Ashford and Simpson, the Enterprise. I mean, they were always enterprising. But the first solo record for Valerie Simpson for Motown, I played on a song called Genius. Look what man has done. Beautiful song, had a little hip thing, and it was at the record plant. Um, very great music. Nat Adderley Jr., Francisco Centeno, Ralph McDonald got there later to put his thing on. It was at night, and yeah, that was the first time I recorded with Valerie Simpson and Nick Ashford. And then later on they did an entity of Ashford and Simpson, but they were always writing tunes for everybody. Reach Out and Touch, all those songs were written then, and then they were applied to, say, Diana Ross, and as songwriters do. But you said, did I write down? Yeah, Valerie Simpson was wonderful. That comes to mind right away. There's a lot more, but I have to say that because she's a phenomenal musician. She'd sit down at the piano and say, "This is how it goes." And we rehearsed at their house on the west side there, beautiful brownstone. And did Buddy bring his drums? Yes, I schlepped my drums in a taxi, and it was fine. I had a great time with them, and they're wonderful people. Got rest in peace, Nick Ashford, because he was wonderful with lyrics. Just that team, you know what I mean? The percolator, like the pistons in a car. This one go down, that one go up, and it would propel it right to the hit that it is today. Thus the Sugar Bar and all those hits that they've got out there, Solid as a Rock, all of that. Oh man.
You're doing sessions during the day,
Mm-hmm.
might be playing gigs at night, and there's a thing that comes up called Saturday Night Live. Now, you were the first drummer on that show, correct?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thanks to Howard Johnson, God rest his soul, and the great Bob Cranshaw. They said these people were going to do a TV show. And I met Paul Schaefer. He was fresh in from Canada. He was playing the Magic Show next to Manny's and Sam Ash down there, that theater down there. All that stuff is gone now, I know. I think, did they leave that theater up, Clayton, or they tore that theater down too?
Which
one?
The
Music Block. Our Music Block. Remember where all our music stores were? Anyway,
yeah.
Whatever that Broadway theater is there, I think that's still there. And they built
theater,
everything around it.
Yeah.
There you go. So I met those guys, and they said we want to do this at NBC. And I rehearsed a couple of times. I did the first show. And by the time the second show was getting ready to jump off, I left because I got offered to play with Bette Midler for a lot of money. I got to say that, for a lot of money, because those days I wasn't first call for everything. I'm somebody's daddy. Saturday Night Live, you would do your performance on Saturday. You would work that week, rehearse, do the camera blocking, pre-records, whatever it is. And then you didn't get paid for 3 or 4 weeks. You didn't get it at the end of the week, or like we do on Broadway. That's another good thing why I liked about Broadway. You got paid right then, Wednesday or Thursday or whatever it was.
That's right.
To me, and I used to hear about the guys. Oh, can I say this? Yeah, I'm gonna say it. I used to hear about the guys that used to get the check in the mail, because there was supposed to be a certain amount of musicians on participating, and they were called walkers or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So some guys got it in the mail. I was like, man, sign me up for that. But I never thought I was going to do a Broadway thing, because I thought I wouldn't say I didn't think I was good enough, but for lack of better words, I didn't think I was good enough, or I could do it. I mean, I could do it, but I always looked at it as a very difficult, classical, lengthy, it didn't get hip until I went to see, Zachariah or something like that. And Purdy was playing. And I was like, yeah, now and that was way before the Wiz and you know what I mean? Like that. But again, and then the Wiz came to town, or, Charlie Small and all those guys did that. Timothy Graffenried. I mean, Luther got a tune in the Wiz. You know what I mean? I'm friends with these guys. So I was like, yay, good for you guys.
So,
good for you guys.
I was going to get to Luther in a minute too, but
okay.
Okay,
sorry.
Because first of all, I love that first record. I love most of his records, but man, Never Too Much and The House Is Not a Home and
Brother
Sugar and
man.
Spice and all the
Sugar and
stuff.
Spice. Yeah, brother.
Anyway, so Luther had done a song in The Wiz, and he was kind of connected to The Wiz, but you were also working with Luther because you were doing a lot of stuff with him and Marcus Miller and all those guys. And, I guess, I know that they also sang on the for background for the song Fame by David Bowie. I want to ask you about singing. You also sang on jingles too, correct? Or did you sing on jingles?
A couple, not lead thing, but they say, get over here and sing this. And I go, no. And they'd go, like the Luthers and the guy, Bill Eaton, those guys that knew me, they said, well, I can't say what they said because we're, it's a public thing, but they said, bring you up over here. Come on, sing with your daddy's voice. So I would imitate my father, the baritone voice, and, do that thing, but that note would be there and I'd get the little check. But I sang with Roberta, backgrounds with Roberta. I sang on jingles, but not like the multi
like Patti Austin.
Oh my God. Listen, that's a dynasty right there. Patti, Luther. Luther and Patti was the king and queen of jingles, singing on jingles. I mean, there's nothing about the juicy fruit gum. I could just name them, and Patti, oh my goodness, so I'd see them all the time. And then there's all the other ones. Even now you see Dennis Collins, Nikki. They sang on a lot of jingles then, but they were, I don't want to say babies, but they were young at it. But Patti, that's a dynasty. That's her own bank right there, brother. But Valerie Simpson sang on a lot of. You said Debbie McDuffie. Debbie McDuffie was the reason why I was playing in that phase of the Apollo, Showtime at the Apollo, because Debbie McDuffie, I would do commercials for her. Oh, brother, she is the empress of all of that stuff. She'd get everybody, Luther, Lou Rawls, Ray Charles, the companies would get, they want that black vibe or the soul vibe or that kind of thing and that sound and that vibe. Debbie McDuffie got Leon Pendarvis to do the arrangements, and there's pictures. I'll find the pictures and send them to you of them, everybody standing around the piano. Denise Williams, James Ingram. I'm looking at the picture I got over here. Luther and them are over here on the other side of the piano and just being bad, talking lots of what. And Penn is just playing the piano to get everybody to get their parts together. And then Teddy Pendergrass was singing the lead on one. And there's Roberta standing there with her flop hat on. Everybody's in the room. Each one of them are like...
Right. Speaking of
lucrative. They got paid that,
Speaking of legends, Anita Baker, Mariah Carey, Leslie Uggams, GRP All-Stars, Will Downing, Saida Garrett, Melissa Morgan, who I love, Jeffrey Osborne, Shaka Khan, Nancy Wilson, George Duke, Regina Bell, Manhattan Transfer, who you worked for a long time.
Ever.
Tom Browne, Luther Vandross. Now let me just stop because I just got to tell you, I grew up in the 70s and 80s. I was born in 1966, but I started playing drums in the late 70s, and I grew up on funk and soul and R&B and, Cameo, Parliament.
Yeah. Blackman.
When I heard, Funkin' for Jamaica,
oops,
and stuff like that, and then of course the first Luther Vandross record and all the stuff from the late 70s, then I realized that you were playing those records, and I was like, I used to go down in my basement and try to play like you. Maybe that helped with me actually being able to play at the Color Purple, but it's something that I'm just glad to be able to speak to you about your influence on my life. Playing that first Luther Vandross record, did you guys realize what was going to happen with that? Was it something that you knew was going to be special?
Here's the short story of the Luther, that project, the Never Too Much and all of that stuff. Myself and Luther, young Marcus Miller, we were all working and playing and touring with the great Roberta Flack. She, that she's an institution, school of thought, music. You come through there, you learn, you get it. So we've been touring with Roberta, but Luther had already tried 2 or 3 times to do solo projects for himself. You named David Bowie. When Luther was with David Bowie and Carlos Alomar, of course, and the great Robin and Luther grew up together. They were in groups like Listen My Brother, in the Apollo basement. I keep referring to the Apollo. That was an incubator for us to grow and make us to be able to deal with the world that we did, thus going to the next level. So that Never Too Much record, which, by the way, Never Too Much was the last song we recorded. He said, "Oh, I have one more song." We did it. Here you go. You like that morning session thing. Can we do it at 11 o'clock on Monday or whatever day it was? And we had a 3 o'clock with Roberta to record a song that she did with Maya Angelou's words, lyrics, a poem. And they had put music. We put the music to it, and we had to be there at 3 o'clock, downbeat. Earl Klugh played. It was a big thing. But Luther wanted to do this one more song. Now, he had been trying to, he's always writing, always writing. So he said, "Hey, I want to do some demos for my project," because Roberta told him, "You need to do your own record. You need to do your own record," but not beating him up, but just saying you need to do your own record. So having said that, we recorded at Media. We did this song. We did the House Is Not a Home was late at night. Anthony came, turned the bass down to D. There was none of them little 6-string nothing. He had that piece of wood. That piece of wood that he played on looked like it was the ore from Noah's Ark or something. It was old and gray, but the resonance and the tones that he got out of it. Next time you hear that song when he says that's then they started making 6-string basses. But
is that Marcus Miller?
No, House Is Not a Home is Anthony Jackson. Marcus is on everything else. Anthony, that's why I'm saying this to you.
Wow,
you like that record? House Is Not a Home is Anthony Jackson, and it's only 2 takes, and they kept the first take.
What?
We had a lot of 1 take things, and Luther used to say little stuff like, "I'm sick of you." So what's the matter? He said, "You get it right at first. I have to." I said, "Yeah, but you have you can now concentrate on, your backgrounds and your thing." And he would tease us lovingly, but and he was a jokester all the time. So, okay, so we did all of those tunes. We do To This Day, and then we go on the road or something and do To the Next Day or something, and then he said, "Well, I got one more song. Can we do it?" And he got time at Media on 57th Street. And they got us in that little studio upstairs near the office. We all squoze all this stuff. The drums, the guys brought my drums, and he sang in that little hallway, which was going to be the isolation booth. And he had these words, and it was and slow down now, don't got all these words. I kept saying to myself, keep it, because he tried to get it out, how it the cadence. Beautiful. He pulled it off. But then, okay, we did that. Then Marcus always tells the story. Buddy's looking at his watch. And saying, "Can we go? What's wrong with that one?" Because they'd say, "You say it," because he ain't gonna mess with you. But it's not. He knew he was on the same session at 3 o'clock, but the singers came later. As a drummer, if the job is at 3, me and you got to be there at 2 o'clock to do sounds and make sure the drums and everything is straight before they say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And here's the first song. And they like to do a lot of takes. And I'm sorry, I was impatient. Sorry. But the guys would make me say it instead of them saying it. So Marcus always tells the story. Well, Buddy was looking at his watch and saying, hey, we got to go. Do we have to do this again? But never too much. That was first take. And then he worked on it later. But that's because we had been playing together. Me and Nat had been playing together a long time. Marcus, he's a chameleon. He'd get in there and morph himself into the thing, add his flavor. Nat was the leader. We followed and we threw it. That's what got us ready for what we're now talking about. Right. Broadway, where you got the conductors that you go, oh my God, come on, let your hand down now.
You're right.
The singer's going to kill you. Let your hand down.
So The House Is Not a Home. It's so slow. Was Nat Adley Jr. conducting that?
And no click. He was conducting, but still in love. And then the fast one, still in love. And he's playing and doing it with the hand. Still in love.
Wow.
Then the strings and all that stuff. They added that on later with Paul Reiser's wonderful, I think it's Paul Reiser, Mr. Reiser's wonderful arrangements from the Motown guys. You know what I mean? It's really spare no expense. Luther really, really did. And we got it placed a year after we had recorded it. And the gentleman that Larkin Arnold is his name. And he'll go down in fame for signing the Luther Vandross project that we are speaking of and getting Marvin Gaye back to America to do Sexual Healing.
Yes.
Same time, same label. Look at those two hits. You know what I mean? That guy, those were two great signings for him. I'm sure, guys like that, they have other accomplishments, but he will go down in history getting Luther finally to a real deal, a real entity for his own and support from the record company, because those other record companies that he was with for his solo thing, I won't name their names, that everybody can go look at it. And then the second record we did was, I only did part of it, but Here and Now, I Promise to Love. Yeah, that one, but that didn't get on that record. The first Forever, For Always, For Love, that one. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Here and Now and all that other stuff kind of came later, and then they built it up and embellished. But it was a thought. I remember that on the napkin. Nat used to write the arrangements on the napkin. Give it to the copyists.
Wow.
Oh, I'm gonna be in trouble for that. But yeah, he used to do that. But great, genius cats, man. I was just glad to be in the room, bro. I'm just a drummer in the band. These guys are writing some great stuff, and Marcus is a great composer. All of them are a great team of writing tunes. And then I came later and did Any Love and a couple of other things. But Marcus called me up and same thing, that the music block where our music stores used to be. I went to that block, that whatever that studio was, or Right Track, right above Sam Ash and Manny's. And I brought my stuff, and he had a little demo, and he said, play. So and then they matched it with the gizmo, because now the sonic thing, they want to hear the electric thing, but I blended in with his drum machine robot, the computer thing. So that's why you hear Any Love sounding like it's a machine, but it's not. It's me and the machine, and they mixed it so good. So it blended together, and it calmed it down, because it's a great tune. And these guys wrote. I just felt bad that that they didn't get more recognition. I mean, yeah, they got popular. Our neighborhood bought them, but it could have been better. It could have been better. And he didn't get a Grammy until way down the line, and all of that stuff was Grammy material. But that's another story with politics, and I don't want
Yes, exactly.
to start on that.
So going back to the Apollo days, when
Yes,
you're
sir.
working in the '90s with Debbie McDuffie, you had to play
Yes, sir.
with various kinds of artists and play all kinds of stuff, which kind of
Oh
leads
boy.
me to the show Motown the Musical in 2013. And
Yes,
I
sir.
was fortunate enough to sub for you there as well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. No,
That,
thank you for saving me.
that required a lot of different styles of drumming because you had to play pretty much the entire Motown catalog.
Yes, sir.
How did you get involved in that show?
You know that I played with Brian Stokes Mitchell, and Brian Stokes Mitchell and Charles Wright are besties, and you know how our business works. Um, I did many gigs with Charles Wright being the producer of a show for Brian Stokes Mitchell. We did a special at Lincoln Center